Candace Owens is the gift that never stops giving. She really is, okay?
And everyone rolls their eyes, yeah, I know.
So it's just not for me. Like, I feel like I could do that. It's like talking a lot. I can't mimic Whitney Houston.
And one of these days, y'all are gonna understand why I still decide to listen to her, okay? Because when I heard she stood on business for free speech and she told the president of the United States that she's not folded, I was like, see, this gives me hope. This gives me hope, Candace, okay? Because everybody keeps telling me you be switching up. But she didn't even switch up for Trump, who y'all keep saying she loves so much. Well, she does. I think she appreciates Donald Trump. But, I mean, the Trumpster that you think that she is, I think she has a healthy relationship with the way that she views the president. Because I think a lot of people in this situation, a lot of influencers, a lot of political influencers in this situation would never have the balls to say what Candace Owens said to the president. And I have so much respect for her, okay? So maybe y'all gonna stop looking at me sideways when I say I listen to Candace Owens, okay? Come on now. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Moral of the Story. And for today's story, we are going over, apparently, Candace Owens got a phone call from Donald Trump himself. And it was all about asking her to stop her podcast series on how the First Lady of France allegedly has a penis, or else the President of France won't move forward with negotiations to end the Russian-Ukraine war. I promise y'all, I'm not making this up. What? You heard me right. Yes. Candace Owens had a podcast about the First Lady of France having a penis. And the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, visited the United States to, I guess, talk about some other stuff. But at the end, it was like, pulled Donald Trump aside and say, hey, listen, can you tell Candace, you know that negotiation we were talking about with the Russia and Ukraine? Yeah. I'm not going to do that unless Candace Owens stops her podcast about talking about my wife having a penis. What?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But before we get into that, if you're new to the channel, I am Moral of the Story, and on this channel, we pretty much talk about anything that I'm interested in. It's a commentary channel. I go over politics, pop culture, YouTube drama, and like I said, honestly, anything that I care about, I decide to talk about it and yap here to you guys. So if that's something that you're interested in, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like and comment, and yeah, let's get back to the video. So, Candace Owens, my sweet Candace, one of the top Black conservatives in the political sphere, and she has a podcast called the Candace Owens Podcast. She used to be a part of the Daily Wire, but she got fired from that because apparently she's anti-Semitic. And whatever, you might agree with that or disagree, whatever, that's besides the point. But on her podcast, the Candace Owens Podcast, last week, she revealed a secret that I just did not see coming. And it all surrounded her series called Becoming Brigitte. Now, Becoming Brigitte is a series where she tried to expose French President Emmanuel Macron's wife, Brigitte, for allegedly secretly being trans and openly being a pedophile, essentially. I kid you not. The entire series is literally Candace Owens pulling out receipts, swearing up and down that the First Lady of France has a whole penis. Like a whole Johnson. Not a half a Johnson, like a whole Johnson. Like this, she's like, no, this girl is a man. This girl is a man, and she's lying to y'all. She's lying to y'all. That's what the entire series is about. Now, I will say, I'm messing around, but she does go into great detail, and I actually watched it, okay? And before y'all start going off and calling her Crazy Candace, I did watch the series, and I'm not gonna lie, yo, she kind of came in with some heat. Now, I remember she was talking about this on her podcast, I think back when she was at the Daily Wire, very briefly. And then she started this series called Becoming Brigitte, I think in early February of this year. And I was excited to watch it. And once again, like I said, I watched it, and I'm not gonna lie, yo. There's a lot of things that she talks about in the series that she shows, and I'm just like, this is kind of hard to deny. Like, what else are you gonna say? Now, I'm not going to do a deep dive on the series because that's not what this video is about, but I will drop a link to the playlist to the series in the description below in case you guys ever get bored or if you're interested and you want to check it out. But the gist is, Candace claims Brigitte took the identity of her missing sister and it's actually a dude named Jean-Michel Trogneau, Brigitte's older brother. I'm okay, and I know you're about to call it crazy, but I mean, like, look at this photo. They do kind of look alike, all right? Now, one thing that you cannot deny, though, is that the First Lady, Brigitte, is most definitely a pedophile of some sort, okay? Because Brigitte, mind y'all, Brigitte she was born in 1953. She's 72 years old. Emmanuel Macron is 39, okay? And they met each other only because he was a student of hers when he was in art school, like at the age of 12, 13. That is how she met Emmanuel Macron when he was 12 years old, okay? So once again, already off the bat, it's what I want to say, a 30 plus year gap, maybe 40 years if I can do math. Not really, but maybe 40 years. And so you cannot tell me there wasn't at some point where they first met that there wasn't some type of funny business going on. And Candace Owens, she actually explains it and gives receipts for that as well in her series. So I'm just saying, even if you don't think that she has a penis, okay, we can at least say that she had her eye on a young boy and it ended up marrying him. So, okay. So anyways, think Candace is crazy all that you want. All right. But something weird is definitely going on, because in the middle of releasing the series, Candace gets a phone call from the White House and they ask her to stop the series. Let me repeat that. The White House called her over a YouTube series.
Stop the cap.
And when I call that person back, they tell me something that is even stranger. They say, look, I again am the messenger here. What I was told from somebody that's pretty high up at the White House is that Emmanuel Macron is holding up negotiations to end the Russian and Ukrainian war unless you stop speaking about his wife. And I'm just going, what? What are you saying? What are we even speaking about? What do you mean negotiations between Russia and Ukraine? I'm just like, looking into a story at my house. I've got a very small team here, and you're telling me that somehow negotiations are being held up and it needs to be communicated to me that I got to stop talking about Brigitte? What are we saying?
Like, the accusations that she's actually talking about right here are very big. So for her to just come out and lie about not only the president of France, but also lie about the president of the United States, Donald Trump, I just can't see her doing that for no reason. Okay, I can't see her doing that, period, but especially for no reason. And if Macron is really talking about holding up this negotiation and possibly keeping off saving innocent lives over a podcast series, what does that say about him as a leader? Like, innocent lives are literally on the line. He's over here pressed about Candace Owens, out of all people, right? And look, Candace Owens, she be coming in with some heat. So I understand if Candace Owens actually finds something out about you and she's passionate about it, I would be scared too, 100%. Okay, so once again, this makes me think that there is validity to this story. Because why would you even suggest something like that? And shame on him for being a leader and suggesting something like that. A president and suggesting something over a podcast series. And my thing is, people were saying that for years about Michelle Obama. They're still saying it to this day. I had never heard or seen Obama pull anything like this, of this manner, right? So it really is eye-opening. So this is why I believe that what Candace Owens is reporting on has truth to it. Because why would you do all of this over some crazy conspiracy theory, right? Over crazy Candace. I just can't see somebody going to this length to pull aside Donald Trump and ask him to stop personally. Now, if I'm gonna be honest, if I was Candace, I would have not handled it in the way that she handled it. And I'm not saying that she did bad, right? I'm just saying, if I got a call from the White House, I'm folding. I'm hitting delete, okay? I'm acting like I never even uploaded it in the first place. I'm sending out an apology, all right? I'm sitting on my kitchen floor and I'm giving an apology, all right? Like Trisha Paytas. I would have folded. But I mean, not Candace, she held her ground. And that's another thing that I like about Candace Owens. Because one thing about Candace that I do like, if she's wrong, she gonna stand 10 toes down on her being wrong. She's not gonna give up. She's gonna stick to her word. At least she's gonna stick to the way that she believes and what she believes to be true. As wild as it is about freedom of speech. And I think it's even more wild that the same administration that talks about freedom of speech so much is gonna hit Candace Owens up and ask her to shut up. Right? I don't even think it should have gotten to this point. I don't even think it should have gotten that far. Right? I think, and I understand that what Emmanuel Macron is asking is crazy. And if he's legit trying to hold up peace negotiations over this, yeah, okay, there has to be some type of conversation. But if I were the president, if I were the president, I wouldn't have even allowed him to even talk to me about that, right? The moment I would have heard that, I would have been like, are you serious right now? I wouldn't have allowed anybody in my administration to call Candace Owens anyways. I would have handled it right then and there and said, no, this is America. Since he's so big on freedom of speech, right? I would have been like, this is America. Why are we even having this debate? Why are we even talking about this right now? Okay. So and the thing is, like I said, if it's nothing, let it go. And then I had to check myself a little bit because I kind of was like, is she being selfish? Like, if she has the chance, the potential to end a war, and she's debating on that because she wants to continue a podcast series, then again, that's also kind of petty, right? But I want you guys to understand, the Macron series, the Brigitte Macron series, isn't as petty as it sounds, okay? She did have a bigger purpose on why she wanted to report on this, okay? Not only is she just trying to expose the lies that is coming from the French government, she also was trying to expose this pedophilia ring that's happening, and like how there's a lot of and you could say the same thing about America, right? Which she has also talked about multiple times. But for some reason, she just is really passionate about this. But she's very passionate in general about exposing pedophilia. I will give her that. But when it came down to this story, she seems to be very passionate about it because there has been multiple journalists who's gotten shut down. And there's a lot of other things that she talks about that kind of circles around the French government. So she was very, very, very passionate about exposing this lie that is happening. And she really thinks that the public needs to know this. And she also has support from multiple citizens of France. And because these journalists have gotten shut down and they are applauding her for even trying to come out. I mean, she even translated the entire series into French, right? And I think she has subtitles into French so that French citizens could watch the series as well. So this is something she's passionate about. It's not just like she's talking about Blake Lively, okay? She's legit trying to expose something that's happening, and she feels that everybody needs to know. So I'm just putting that out there. That's probably why she was very hesitant on even stopping the series to begin with, because she's like, not only is this breaching my freedom of speech, which this administration pushes for all the time, I'm also trying to expose something that I feel like the public needs to know. And of course, the person that I'm exposing is going to come out and say something ridiculous like this, right? So she wanted some advice, and she decides to call Tucker Carlson. And now I know you're probably going to say this does not help the situation, but I will say I think he gave her pretty sound advice, and he said this.
But I did reach out to Tucker Carlson, and I just kind of told him the situation and was like, look, this is really weird. I know I don't normally contact you for advice, but I could really use some advice right now because you know how much free speech matters to me and basically how important this particular story is to me because it involves, you know, potentially, not just potentially, like pedophilia, incest, all of these elements. And as a mother, the idea that people this powerful, that the story could be covered it matters. Like this actually, the truth just matters at the end of the day. But also, like, if I could end the Ukrainian and Russian war, and by just stopping this conversation, I would do it. And he comes back with just very sage Tucker Carlson advice. And he says, look, you know, you don't want to have the bloodshed of Christians on your conscience, but also free speech does matter. And you should essentially say you'll do it until, like you're saying, this negotiations are happening now and you'll agree to do that. But at some point, obviously, you need to inform people about what happened because this is totally crazy. And I say that's actually a very good idea. I feel like that's a very principled position to take.
Then the very next day, Donald Trump himself decides to call Candace, because Candace is not giving up. She's hanging up on people. She's saying, okay, you need to at least come at this better. I need more information, first of all. And what if this is a fluke? What if it's like, what is going on? This is ridiculous. Donald Trump calls her himself and was like,
He said, I saw her, Candace, I saw her up close and she looks like a woman to me. She looks like a woman to me. I had dinner with her at the top of the Eiffel Tower.
and then, of course, Candace is going to try to explain her story. So she goes on and on about how Brigitte Macron is in cahoots with multiple surgeons that specialize in feminization surgery and transgender surgery and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, bro, Candace is really having a Candace crash out, talking to the Donald Trump, the president of the United States, over trans stuff. And it's like full circle, because it would be Candace. It really would be Candace talking about this. So she tells Donald Trump, she's like, look, okay, I'll put a pause to it. She takes Tucker Carlson's advice. I'll stop talking about it for right now. Okay, if you need me to stop talking about this so you can get this negotiation over with, cool. But I'll be back to talk about this later. And this is where my faith in Candace Owens has been restored, okay?
I was very clear, this is not long-term for me. Like, if you're close to this deal, ink it, let's get it done. And then he sort of offers at the end, he says, hey, maybe I can come on your podcast one day. I'm great for ratings. They're so Trumpian to give yourself a compliment. So I give him the Trump right back. And I say respectfully, Mr. President, I'm apparently good for ratings too, because you've got a leader of a country, the president of the country, asking you to ask me to do a favor. So.
I think she kept it respectful, right? But she also let it know not even the president is going to silence what I'm talking about, right? They're not going to silence my truth, not going to silence what I believe that the public needs to know. And you would think Mr. Truth Social himself would have some respect for that. Okay, I know I do. Moral of the story is Candace Owens might sound unhinged sometimes. I get it, okay? But maybe the world is even more unhinged and she is just willing to actually talk about it. I mean, I respect that. One thing about Candace, she is always going to stand 10 toes down on what she believes to be true. Okay, she might be wrong, but she's gonna stand 10 toes down on that. And I respect that. I don't know. But what I do know is there is never a dull moment with Candace Owens, okay? Her podcast is extremely entertaining and I'm here for the ride. I'm gonna continue watching, all right? She's got my support. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let's talk about it in the comments and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Bye.